super lucky disaster man. Chapter 20, Friends should support each other. Meow meow meow, meow 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 meow. Amuro Toru, seeing Komaeda struggling to explain with just meowing, helplessly offered to translate for him. Yes, he has turned into a cat. However, the person on the other end of the phone seemed to have miraculously interpreted the meaning behind the cat's meowing by treating it like punctuation marks. As a result, halfway through Amuro Toru's explanation, the person started laughing uncontrollably. You could even hear something dropping onto the floor. Amuro Toru stayed silent for a moment, and Komaeda let out 2 soft meows. Dazai-kun, did you fall off the couch? Ow, that hurt. Let me guess what kind it is. The boy on the other end asked with great interest. It definitely feels like a long-haired cat. Could it be a ragdoll? No, it's a Siberian forest cat. Are you Komaeda-kun's friend? Amuro Toru was somewhat displeased with this person's reaction. How can one laugh like that when their friend is in such a situation? Sorry, we are a bit busy here right now. If it's nothing urgent, we'll have to hang up. Ayatsuji Yukito mumbled, something will definitely happen in this room. There were 5 dead bodies in the room in total. 2 had just been shot, then someone, while trying to escape toward the door, tripped on an untied shoelace, fell hard, and hit their temple on the edge of a table, dying on the spot. The corpse even blocked the way for others, and now, out of nowhere, a section of the ceiling had collapsed. The situation was terrifying. Just a few meters away, it looked like hell inside, while outside, everything was peaceful, petting cats, phone calls being made. That guy is dead. What about Komaeda-kun? Amuro Toru was momentarily too distracted by the phone call to care. In the time it took him to answer, nearly everyone inside had died. And what did you mean earlier when you talked about the crime? Are there others not present? They will all die. Ayatsuji Yukito, holding Komaeda the cat, had a slightly complex expression. That being said, when an ability user dies, the effects of their abilities usually cease. But this doesn't mean that all abilities follow this rule. With the current lack of clues, Ayatsuji couldn't be certain whether Abe Hiroshi was trying to threaten them, telling the truth, or a mix of both. Although it wasn't Ayatsuji's fault that Komaeda Nagito had turned into a cat, he had certainly benefited from it. If Komaeda couldn't return to his human form, well, in that case, he would just have to take care of Komaeda for the rest of his life. Komaeda Nagito, however, was quite calm, because he knew there was still a way out. With his luck, it was impossible that he would remain a cat forever. No matter how much misfortune he faced, the outcome was always going to be good. Komaeda Nagito had that kind of confidence. Probably hearing Ayatsuji Yukito and Amuro Toru's conversation, a voice laced with laughter came through the still-connected phone. Is that ability user who can turn people into animals about to die? Everyone fell silent. The caller didn't care and continued, I told Komaeda-kun to be more careful around that guy, and yet he still fell for it. Amuro Toru's expression darkened as he gripped the phone. What do you know? Who are you? Don't worry, he'll turn back into a human. The youth's tone was light, as if this was no big deal at all. But having a cat run all the way here from Reigo Island seems a bit too much. Why don't you bring the cat to the Port Mafia? Ayatsuji Yukito furrowed his brow. Are you from the Port Mafia? Port Mafia? Amuro Toru's expression also became somewhat complicated. If you want him to recover, bring him to the Port Mafia. Ah, I know, just tell the boss I'll be there later. The youth's voice suddenly quieted, as if he was talking to someone else, but soon returned to its normal volume. That's it. Komaeda-kun, see you soon. Click. The call ended. Both men were left in deep thought. Komaeda-kun's friend really didn't seem very reliable. The moment the phone connected, he started with nonsense about hearing music and dying, laughed when he learned about his friend's misfortune, and now had even revealed his affiliation with Port Mafia, asking them to bring Komaeda Nagito there. Although wearing the guise of a black organization member, Amuro Toru, still a Japanese police officer at heart, bent down worriedly to look at Komaeda the cat. Komaeda-kun, you should be careful when choosing your friends. That place, the Port Mafia, is not the kind of crowd you want to get involved with. Even if they are a legal organization, they are still a mafia. Komaeda the cat, meow. The fact that Dazai-kun is part of the Port Mafia? He's known that for a while. Doesn't this further prove how extraordinary Dazai-kun's abilities are? People with talents should apply them where they can be best utilized. There's no need to have such a narrow-minded outlook. Besides, Dazai-kun, who often faces death and darkness, is also searching for an answer, and Komaeda fully understands that kind of mentality. If he understands, he certainly won't distance himself from Dazai-kun because of this. On the contrary, he'll support Dazai-kun even more. He hopes Dazai-kun finds his answer soon. Although it was impossible to read anything from the cat's eyes, Amuro Toru still managed to understand Komaeda's attitude. He sighed and placed the phone in front of Komaeda the cat. So, do you have any plans now? Go ahead and tell us. Ayatsuji Yukito also reminded him. In 1 month, you will completely lose human consciousness. But going to the Port Mafia, we can't guarantee your safety there either. Komaeda, now in cat form, struggled to use his claws to type a message on the phone, typing out a poorly constructed sentence filled with typos. Because of their respective professions, both men had considerable experience deciphering codes, so even though the message was full of errors, they were able to read it without much difficulty. So you really want to go to the Port Mafia? Amuro Toru couldn't help but sigh. Are you sure that friend of yours can help you? Komaeda the cat nodded, his tail leisurely swaying back and forth. Dazai-kun had already told him beforehand that his ability, no longer human, could nullify other abilities. Komaeda Nagito trusted that Dazai-kun wouldn't lie about something like this. Ayatsuji Yukito removed his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. If that's the case, then please, Amuro-san, take him to the Port Mafia. Amuro Toru narrowed his eyes. Why me? Just how much had this detective figured out about his true identity? I'm not suited to go to Yokohama right now, Ayatsuji Yukito said with a blank expression. I've never handled a case involving over 10 people conspiring to commit murder before. With so many people dead in one go, the special division will likely start tracking me soon. For the sake of my future peaceful life, it's best not to do anything to provoke them for a while. Moreover, Komaeda-kun is not in a position to be under the protection of the special division right now either. Can you understand that? Tsujimura Mizuki, who had provided him with some information from the special division, had been keeping an eye on Ayatsuji Yukito for a long time. She had also made some assessments of his abilities and even set up a plan with him. In their chats, she had informed Ayatsuji Yukito of what the special division might do next. But Ayatsuji Yukito didn't care much. Since he had accepted this commission, he intended to finish it thoroughly, without backing down just because he might be under surveillance. Amuro Toru, being from the system himself, is also a no-nonsense Japanese police officer, roughly understood what Ayatsuji Yukito would be facing next. So he immediately grasped the situation. I see. Well then, I'll take care of this little one for now. He figured he could send a subordinate later. After all, he wasn't necessarily required to handle it personally. Oh, right, he still needed to report to Jin. The new recruit he needed to assess is dead. So many things had happened all at once, he had almost forgotten. After receiving Amuro Toru's call, Jin was silent for a moment. How did he die? He encountered another ability user. The special division will be here soon, so I plan to leave before then. Amuro Toru replied. There was nothing to lie about in a situation like this, and Jin didn't doubt him. What's your plan next? Why? Do you have a task for me? Amuro Toru asked casually. If not, I'll continue nurturing my intelligence contacts as usual. There is something. Do you know about the Port Mafia? Amuro Toru. He glanced over at Komaeda, still nestled in Ayatsuji Yukito's arms, and responded with mixed feelings. I wouldn't say I'm very familiar. Does this mean you want me to go to Yokohama? After understanding the task, Amuro Toru hung up the phone. He walked over to Ayatsuji Yukito and took Komaeda the cat into his arms, sighing, "You're really lucky. I just happen to be heading to Yokohama, so I can take you along with me." Komaeda the cat, meow. "Yes, I am, extremely lucky." Amuro Toru didn't plan to stick around to handle any paperwork or formalities. He called his subordinates to wrap things up to avoid getting tracked down by the special division. Then, with Komaeda the cat in tow, he boarded a yacht, skillfully started it up, and set course for the shore. After disembarking, he hid Komaeda the cat inside his coat and switched to a more conventional mode of transportation to Yokohama. After all, buying a cat carrier or cage would be disrespectful. Komaeda-kun isn't really a cat, he won't run off or bite anyone. Hiding him like this should be fine. By the time night fell, Amuro Toru had finally reached Yokohama. He slightly disguised his appearance and then went directly to the towering building in Yokohama that belonged to the port mafia. How arrogant! The police officer inwardly cursed as he entered the building without encountering any resistance. If it had been a year ago, getting inside would have taken some effort, and they would have searched him for sure. But now Yokohama was largely stable, and the port mafia headquarters wasn't much more dangerous than the Yokohama police station. Even at the police station, people could come and go as they pleased after registering at the front desk. Similarly, the port mafia no longer stopped every unfamiliar person, leaving the task to the receptionists. They would only ask questions if someone appears suspicious. Under the watchful eyes of the black-clad guards responsible for security, Amuro Toru calmly loosened the collar of his coat. The next moment, a fluffy cat head popped out from his collar, letting out a sweet meow. Ah! The receptionist was momentarily stunned by the adorable cat, then, after composing herself, asked, "Are you here to deliver this cat to Dazai-osamu?" Amuro Toru replied. Although the previous phone call had been cut off, Komaeda Nagito had quickly received an email stating that if they brought the cat to the port mafia, they should tell the receptionist the name, Dazai-osamu. It was at that moment that Amuro Toru finally understood the true status of Komaeda Nagito's friend within the mafia. At that time, he felt an intense urge to shake this big cat and get all his thoughts out of his head. Did Komaeda even know what kind of person his friend was? Dazai-osamu. During last year's Dragon Head conflict, he and his partner were incredibly prominent. Amuro Toru, as an undercover agent in the Black Organization, needed to be well-versed in intelligence about Dazai-osamu, so he knew exactly how dangerous this 17-year-old boy was. Yet, despite being such a dangerous individual, he had casually made a phone call to Komaeda Nagito, as if they were on friendly terms. Right after that, Amuro Toru had secretly sent a message to his subordinates, asking them to investigate Komaeda Nagito. Who exactly was he, and why was he acquainted with someone like Dazai-osamu? So far, there has been no response. Amuro Toru still hoped he hadn't made a mistake, as he still considered Komaeda Nagito to be just an ordinary student. When Amuro Toru uttered Dazai-osamu's name, he immediately noticed a subtle change in the atmosphere. The breathing of everyone nearby faltered for a moment. No surprise there. Dazai-osamu, highly regarded by the port mafia's leader, commanded immense respect within the organization. Just hearing his name was enough to elicit such a reaction. Unfortunately, Amuro Toru's detective instincts failed him this time due to his excessive caution towards Dazai-osamu. Indeed, the members of the port mafia both respected and feared Dazai-osamu. However, this particular reaction wasn't solely because of the mere mention of his name. Dazai-sama. Why would someone bring a cat to Dazai-sama? Did Dazai-sama lose a cat? Dazai-sama, of all people, keeping a cat? It doesn't match at all. Dazai-sama with a cute, sweet little kitty? Wouldn't Dazai-sama be more likely to have a pet like a leopard, a tiger, or a black bear? Clearly, the image of Dazai-osamu in the minds of port mafia members had become somewhat demonized. The receptionist swallowed nervously. Yes, Dazai-sama mentioned this earlier. Please hand over the cat to me. Amuro Toru then gently lifted Komaeda the cat out from his coat and placed him on the reception desk. He instructed, please be gentle with him. After thinking it through, Amuro Toru decided that it was probably best not to reveal that this is a person been turned into a cat. After all, Komaeda Nagito likely wouldn't want too many people to know about it, and an organization like the Port Mafia might be overly sensitive to such matters. If he could quickly deliver Komaeda-kun to his friend, things might go more smoothly. Just as he was handing over the cat, Nakahara Chiya happened to walk by, exiting the elevator. Hearing part of the conversation, his expression immediately became very strange. He had originally intended to walk past Amuro Toru, but now he retraced his steps. Wait a second. Nakahara Chiya asked in disbelief, this cat is for Dazai. The receptionist quickly replied, yes, Nakahara-sama. We'll be delivering the cat to Dazai-sama shortly. Nakahara Chiya looked skeptical, since when did he want to raise a cat? Amuro Toru also recognized Nakahara Chiya, another dangerous figure. He had heard that Nakahara Chiya and Dazai-sama didn't get along well, and judging by his reaction, that intelligence seemed to be accurate. Nakahara Chiya reached out and picked up Komaeda the cat. Amuro Toru was about to say something but noticed that although Nakahara Chiya's actions seemed rough, he was actually handling the cat quite gently. It seemed that Nakahara Chiya, despite his demeanor, might unexpectedly be fond of small animals. Seeing this, Amuro Toru relaxed. Even though Nakahara Chiya and Dazai-sama didn't get along, Amuro Toru didn't need to worry about Nakahara Chiya mistreating the cat. He let out a sigh of relief. The cat has been delivered, so I'll be leaving now. Please make sure Dazai-sama gets him. Komaeda Nagito meowed twice in Amuro Toru's direction, as if to express his gratitude. The perpetrator who turned him into a cat was dead, and now only Dazai-sama could turn him back into a human. Amuro Toru was willing to risk coming to the Port Mafia to help him out. What a good person. Judging by his lock-picking skills, Komaeda Nagito suspects that Amuro Toru might not be an ordinary person either. He hoped they'd meet again in the future. Nakahara Chiya, uninterested in people running errands, waved dismissively. I'm not going to steal his cat. With that, Nakahara Chiya, who had initially planned to leave, turned around and pressed the button for Dazai-sama's floor on the elevator. Nakahara Chiya was the only one in the elevator. With no one around, he leaned slightly to block the cameras and quietly stroked the cat several times. Komaeda the cat, meow. He heard the person being called Nakahara but didn't yet know the full name. However, based on the respect shown by the people around him, it seemed that he, like Dazai-sama, was also young but held a high position. He was probably another ability user. With that in mind, he endured patiently, as this was someone who might help nurture hope. However, what Komaeda the cat didn't know was that Nakahara Chiya, unlike Amuro Toru and Ayatsuji Yukito, couldn't resist petting him. Komaeda the cat tried to endure it for a while but eventually used his large, fluffy tail to lightly swat Nakahara Chiya's hand. Nakahara Chiya wasn't upset. Sorry, did I use too much force? But seriously, that guy Dazai actually owns a cat. Owning a cat. What if one day he successfully pulls off his suicide attempt? Doesn't he care at all about the cat's feelings? That guy Dazai-sama is way too irresponsible. This cat looks like it's quite valuable. If Dazai dies, it could probably find someone new to adopt it. Nakahara, conscience of the Port Mafia, Chiya thought anxiously. The Port Mafia's headquarters was very tall, so the elevator had to be fast. In no time, they reached the designated floor. Nakahara Chiya stepped out of the elevator, carrying Komaeda the cat, and quickened his pace toward Dazai-sama's office. He ignored the puzzled looks from the two guards at the door as they noticed him holding a cat. Without hesitation, he kicked open Dazai-sama's office door. Hey! Dazai! Chiya! Dazai-sama, surprisingly, was seated behind his desk, but he wasn't working. His feet were propped up on the desk, and he looked lazily comfortable. I got word that you took my cat. Just because you like cats doesn't mean you can steal someone else's. Go buy your own. Komaeda Nagito instantly perked up, his ears standing straight. Nakahara Chuya. Isn't this the famous poet? I was right. He's another talented individual. The Port Mafia really is a treasure trove of talented people. What? Who said I wanted to get a cat? I'm here to make fun of you. Nakahara Chuya rolled his eyes. Who would have thought, you actually have a cat? Weren't you the one who said, I have no interest in keeping pets last time? Raising a cat, in itself, isn't all that strange. The odd part is that it's Dazai Osamu who's raising the cat. These two things together feel like some kind of joke. Moreover, seeing Dazai getting his retribution is a rare event, so Nakahara Chuya rushed over to enjoy the spectacle. Komaeda the cat poked his head out and immediately started meowing at Dazai Osamu. Dazai Osamu's eyes fell on Komaeda the cat, and with a smile, he said, Good evening, Komaeda-kun. Feeling somewhat ignored, Nakahara Chuya furrowed his brow and walked over to the desk, placing Komaeda the cat on it. His name is Komaeda. What kind of weird name is that? Also, you still haven't explained why you suddenly decided to get a pet. It's not me who wants a pet, Chuya. That would be you, right? I have no intention of changing my mind. Dazai Osamu lowered his feet from the desk and pulled out his phone. He took a photo of the elegant Siberian forest cat sitting properly on the desk, its tail neatly curled around the leg of the table. Nakahara Chuya. This guy can really lie with a straight face. Do you even realize what you're doing right now? You've already evolved from a cat enthusiast to a full-blown cat servant. Looking at your album, it's filled with nothing but cat photos. Komaeda Nagito felt a bit helpless. While he wasn't exactly opposed to being turned into a cat, it wasn't an ideal situation either. As long as it amused Dazai, he didn't mind too much, but he certainly hoped to turn back into a human as soon as possible. He tapped the table lightly with the tip of his tail, meow. Dazai Osamu looked into Komaeda the cat's green eyes through his phone screen for a moment, then put the phone down. Alright, Chuya, you can go now. This doesn't concern you. Frustrated at not getting the reaction he had expected, Nakahara Chuya's face darkened. You really just treat me like an errand boy, huh? Nakahara Chuya had come to see Dazai get embarrassed, but to his surprise, Dazai remained unfazed, showing no reaction whatsoever. You're really such a brainless snail. If you stay any longer, it'll just be you getting embarrassed, Dazai remarked smugly. By the way, did you touch Komaeda-kun earlier? Nakahara Chuya's expression stiffened, but he tried to maintain his composure. So what? I carried him here, of course I touched him. Dazai Osamu sighed. However, Nakahara Chuya could tell that this sigh wasn't out of genuine concern for him, it was more of a sign that Dazai was enjoying his discomfort. Sure enough, after the sigh, Dazai began laughing. Nakahara Chuya's sense of unease deepened. He wanted to kick the table, but he hesitated, considering the cat on top of it. Instead, he impatiently asked, What the hell is going on? Just say it. Stop being so cryptic. Komaeda Nagito felt a bit sympathetic toward Nakahara Chuya. By the end of today, it was likely that the man would have a new psychological scar. However, overcoming psychological scars brings one closer to hope, so Komaeda was happy to act as a stepping stone toward that hope. With that thought in mind, Komaeda didn't mind if Nakahara Chuya ended up hating him after the truth was revealed. He was perfectly content helping him in this way. Dazai Osamu was laughing so hard he started choking. As he coughed, he finally managed to say, Let me introduce you. This is Komaeda Nagito. Nakahara Chuya, following Dazai's gesture, hesitantly looked over at Komaeda the cat. The tone, the way Dazai introduced him, the name. Something felt off. Could this really be a normal cat? Komaeda the cat politely meowed, meow 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 meow. Nice to meet you, This overly human-like behavior only made Nakahara Chiya's suspicion grow stronger. He cautiously asked, You're a human, aren't you? Komaeda the cat nodded. Nakahara Chiya, I get it. His expression became serious, a mix of disbelief and resignation, as if giving up on trying to understand. Is this an enemy? This has to be an enemy, right? Turned into a cat to spy on us. If he's useless, should we just kill him now? Dazai Osamu intentionally teased, who would have thought Chiya was this kind of person? After taking advantage of Komaeda-kun, you still want to destroy the evidence. I did not. Nakahara Chiya was close to losing it. But who could have known? Why is he a person? Is he one of your subordinates? This is ridiculous. How did an outsider end up bringing him back to you? He's not a member of the Port Mafia. He's a civilian who is affected by an ability that turned him into an animal. He couldn't break it, so he came to me for help. Dazai Osamu grinned and turned to Komaeda Nagito, asking, Isn't that right, Komaeda-kun? Komaeda the cat nodded, meow. Someone actually came to you for help. Nakahara Chiya made a face as if he had just eaten something disgusting. And it's a civilian no less. Are you seriously going to help him? Of course, why would you doubt that? Dazai Osamu smiled brightly. After all, I want to become Komaeda-kun's friend as quickly as possible. Nakahara Chiya. This Komaeda Nagito. What a poor soul. Chapter 20 End.